Hello, this is Dr. Tay, and today's episode is going to be on how those herbs work. All right, so just a little background for those who are tuning in for the first time. I do have a master's in herbology and a doctorate separately, and I have about 16 years of clinical um, experience treating how to get increased fertility for women, balancing out women's cycles, increasing testosterone for men, helping treat the common cold, and the list goes on and on and on. Pretty much everything under the sun. Does herb work for all of these things? The answer is, in theory, yes, but not everything, no. So there are certain things that I don't treat in mass, such things as like tinnitus. The efficacy to treat tinnitus is very, very low. However, there are a lot of things that herbs can do, and it's hard to navigate. And it's very hard for me to explain herbs to people because it's such a dense uh, topic. In Korean culture, we tend to say those who practice acupuncture and moxibustion, they tend to be, how do you say, they are uh, technicians, right? They're known as we refer to them as technicians. And those who practice herbs are considered doctor. They have a doctor of, doctor. Once you get to the herbal level, you're considered a doctor. And how many herbs do I know? I know there are more than 400 different individual herbs. I know them because I carry them in my office, and I carry the granular. I used to carry the raw herbs, so you could look at the herbs and see what it looks like, what part of the tree it is, and things like that. However, I no longer do that. I carry the granular herbs, which is like Folgers coffee. They take the herbs, they boil it, they dehydrate it, and then they're able to create these powders like Folgers coffee. You just add hot water to it and stir, and you're able to get the herbs out. And this is the main way I give herbs to my patients for the past 16 years. I used to, in the beginning of my career, buy the actual raw herb, dosage it out, put it into a big concoction machine, and then take the herbs out and then individually packing them and then giving it out the traditional way. And that's the way a lot of the Korean and Chinese um, herbs were taken. In fact, some herbs, they actually give you the raw herbs and you go home and you cook it yourself. But in the modern day era, it's a world of convenience, so everybody is trying to do something for them. All right. So herbs and diet therapy in Eastern medicine, the qi is understood as the taste and temperature that has a function with a factor of time. So we have a spectrum of different herbs ranging from seeds, leaves, barks, inside the trees, roots, etc. And herbs does not always mean they're herbs. They're also animal parts ranging from snake, seahorse, um, yeah, and the list goes on for like deer antler and all of these things, and all of these things they fall under herb and diet therapy. And herbology, at least in eastern part of Asia, has been around for thousands of years, and herbs got recorded for every pandemic that there was. Um, and people have recorded them saying that which herbs worked for which ailments and things like that, such as they found that um, rhubarb roots helps with constipation. Um, they learned that uh, certain herbs they clear heat um, and things like that. So let's dive in. Of course, herbs have been around for thousands of years. The scientific revolution occurred in the 17th century in Europe. Thus, not everything is based on science. And there's two types of science, like traditional science based on functional relationship. If I do this, it makes this happen. And not knowing the molecules and all of these things, there is a perspective which is very valuable that is missing in the modern day era. And I think people who practice herbs from the traditional Chinese or East Asian sense has this perspective, and modern nutritionists and all of these other um, ways of doing things is just a different perspective. And I'm not going to use the word better, okay? There are longitudinal studies where they look at, like the coffee study. It shows that people who drink coffee 1 cup a day or 2 cups a day for 15, 20 years or something like that, they found that it was good for people. Those people who drink coffee show that, but the research, I think, for those things are not necessarily good because it doesn't point out to the health of, adrenal health. They looked at it in the perspective of like cardiovascular things and like, heart disease and strokes and things like that. There are things like double blind test studies. Group A doesn't know what they're taking. Group B knows what they're taking. And this is considered the gold standard. But people who really know the scientific method know that this is not the case because this is not how science works. And there are a lot of different studies which I'm not going to get into. And what makes a good study? A good study is a scientific method that is repeatable. Meaning, if I take one apple plus another apple, the outcome comes out to 2. And I tell them, hey, this is how I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is how I add. And I teach it to different scientists. And this is how you count. And if we come to the same number over and over and over, which is repeatable, and the people who are putting the study together, they review each study together. And there is a peer review, meaning people in similar fields come to an agreement. And when that p-value is presented and is pointing towards 1, this is what they call the absolute truth. There's a lot of studies that show sample sizes that are too small, and the studies didn't have a repeatable method. 10, 15 years ago, acupuncture was for lower back pain. It wasn't showing that it was working so much. In fact, I believe that placebo acupuncture worked better. In fact, it goes to show that doing something actually does something, whether it's real acupuncture or non-targeted fake acupuncture. Something was happening. That's something we knew. But 15, 16 years later, we now know that the p-value is moving towards 1 as the studies are evolving. And the study sample size are getting larger and larger and larger. And most of all, the insurance companies are learning that people who are getting acupuncture are not getting surgeries. And for them, it's more cost effective. So there's that application as well. And the scientific method did not always have the ancient tradition. So in this presentation, I want to talk about the qi of the herbs. What is qi in herbs? Qi means that the public mass that has a philosophical and spiritual understanding what is known as the force and fanfare for Star Wars. However, in Eastern medicine, qi means the taste and temperature. An apple is sweet, lemon is sour, and these tastes derive different functions because it tastes different. And then we have on one side of the picture, cold juices right here, and we have warm soup on the other. And the temperature of what you eat is considered to be very different. I've met a lot of nutritionists. I've met Instagrammers who are promoting a lot of, smoothies in their Instagram and promoting, different smoothie recipes. But they pull me on the side and they're like, hey, I got a question for you. How come I can't get pregnant? I'm like, yeah, because you're eating always cold foods throughout the whole year. And although their nutrients is intact, I tell them that the body spends a lot of energy trying to keep itself warm, but as soon as you wake up, you're introducing something very cold to the body and continuing to do so. And therefore, people with this precondition, when they eat like ice cream for breakfast, you're going to have diarrhea. And their digestive system is, I'm going to use the word retarded, meaning slow to work. And those people, immediately I tell them, you have to start putting ginger into your smoothies because the formula itself is cold. You need to warm it up with something hot. Qi in medicine, anything that has a function with a factor of time, meaning if you take sweets and try to consume it in a very short amount of time, we start having what they call, we in the modern day era call sugar crash. The ancient understanding of sugar crash is that because you ate something sticky, a lot of sticky stuff in a short amount of time, and it took your metabolism to go through it all, you made your body sticky, and that's what slowed you down. So sweets, if you eat too much of it, it slows you down. However, if you eat just the right amount, because it's adding on to you, it gives you energy. And just like sugar, as an example, the poison is in the dosage, and medicinal value is also in dosage. Sweets, the correct amount is good for you, gives you energy. It can have the opposite effect if you eat too much of it. So in Eastern medicine, there is the category of temperature: hot, cold, warm. I put cold again, sorry. It's neutral, slightly cold, slightly warm. Aromatic herbs that has the ability to penetrate through turbidity and revive a particular function, whether it's in the organs. Aromatic herbs like camphor, peppermint, spearmint, all of these things are used in herbs that helps open up the sinuses. That is turbidity. Hot herbs like spicy things tends to give like tonify yang, aka testosterone, makes your body feel warm. There's also cold herbs that are bitter and what is considered to be anti-inflammatory, because inflammation feels hot to the touch. So if you have inflammation on your left knee, touch the bad side with one hand and touch the good side. And if you're able to compare what you're feeling in terms of temperature, the inflamed leg or the knee should feel hotter to the touch compared to the right, and how much swollen it is. That's one way to navigate the temperature of herbs. People who have a cold stomach, their chest feels hot, but their stomach, right underneath the xiphoid process, feels cold. But below, around right over the pubic line, it feels hot. People who are very, very sexually active, they have a very cold stomach. And women with very, very cold stomachs, they have a hard time getting pregnant. So we need to warm up, because if you reach your ovulation, you need to get your body temperature to go up as it peaks, meaning that your body is able to ovulate. Women who don't have a warm lower body, they have a hard time getting pregnant. And as you get older and older, that area becomes colder and drier for women, and eventually you reach menopause. The taste, there is acrid, aka something that is spicy. It disperses and moves. It has the ability to open up pores. Sweet things, they tend to tonify, harmonize, meaning it brings it in balance. It sticks opposite things together. Bitter is drains and dry. Bitter is also known as a lot of anti-inflammatory. Sour is astringent, help leakage of fluids and energy. A lot of seniors, their body becomes more flaccid, especially their urinary bladder, and they tend to go to the bathroom many oftentimes throughout the night. Another example is salty. It tends to purge and soften. What happens when it snows outside and it freezes? What do you spray on the floor? A lot of salt, right? Because they purge and soften the ice to become much more softer. And that also happens in the body. Bland things like corn silk, the corn silk, that is people who have a hard time peeing. If they drink that, it helps leach out dampness. And bland tastes are herbs for people who have who need their lymph to be drained out. And there's two ways to go about it. You leach out dampness and dry the insides. All right, so this covers the basics of herbology, and I think this will give you context as I talk about different herbs in the upcoming future. And so stay tuned for more videos like this. Hit like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thank you. Bye.